Hey YouTube, Dawson Writer here. Welcome to my review for Kikai Senta Zenkaiger episode 7. So this was a pretty big episode, and honestly I thought a pretty good one. It's definitely an episode that people that appreciate lots of fan service will enjoy. So it largely revolves around our debut of our new Akiba Ranger, Stacy. His design very much looks like an Akiba Ranger, but I dig it. You know, I think that it's a unique design because it kind of looks like that. I like that it's purple, which is a much more sparingly used color than gold. So it's pretty cool all around. I really dig it. I dig the character and I dig the design. But we'll dig into more of that a little bit later. Let's talk about the episode. So it revolves around his debut, because Kaito runs into him after he first sort of saw him last week, and he's kind of trying to talk to him, but he's not really interested, and he walks off. But then Kaito like immediately passes him later when he gets called to a situation, and they do like a hole on your left bit. And the other thing in this episode is revolving around Gaon's hatreds of Kikanoids. It's kind of brought up at the beginning and then brought up once we get to the battle. Because once we get to the battle, after Stacy realizes that Kaito's a Zenkaiger, he uses his evil version, not like an evil version, just like another changer like this one, to summon some evil versions of the Gowrangers. So he basically works like the End, where he can summon Rangers to fight for him, kind of like shells. They're like, they don't know this at the time, they think that it's like actually summoning them somehow, but they're basically just like mannequins that can fight for him. But he summons the Gowrangers, and then he summons the Magi Rangers, and he summons the Bokengers, and they're all having to fight against them. And Juran realizes in the fight, like, oh, if I just take out Stacy, then the puppets will stop. But then Gaon actually defends Stacy, and that causes a whole lot of problems amongst the group, and then that leads to a scene between Kaito and Gaon on a bench later, where he's basically saying, you know, he's fine fighting against the villains and the Kikanoids, but he doesn't know what to do when the enemy's human, because he likes humans so much, so he didn't want to do violence against Stacy or the other Rangers who he assumed were human. But then, you know, Kaito comes to the conclusion that they're not the real Sentai. He's like, you know, because my parents knew these guys as heroes, they wouldn't fight for him. Doesn't rule out brainwashing, but basically they deduce that they're just, like I said, sort of mannequins. Unless we find out later there somehow are versions summoned from a dimension, but for now it just seems like they're basically puppets. They're not like the real characters within there. And so Stacy has Gowranger and Gowranger fight. He wanted to call him Gowranger fighting the Rangers, while Stacaesar fights him up on the roof, and we get the debut of his form, and he morphs. And like I said, I really dig the suit. I think it's unique looking. I really hope we can get a figure of it and whatnot. And then I don't remember if it was here or when he first showed up, but they explained that his morpher and stuff was basically reverse engineered from watching the Zenkaigers, and they're testing it on him because he's almost human, because as we found out, he's that tank guy's like son. It was interesting the way they said it though, is they said like, okay, we're gonna test it on him just like Zenkaiser, he's almost human, and that makes me curious if Kaito's half human, or maybe it was just a misreading of the subtitles. I don't know, but it was an interesting beat. But we get the fight scene going on. And eventually, well, they use the Gowranger Powers. He uses the Gowranger Powers to counter the Gowranger summons, and that's how they win there. And like earlier, he used the Kaku Ranger ones to get them to escape as far as that goes. And then they use the Gowranger. Why do I keep wanting to call him Gowranger? It's just so sayable. The Gowranger Powers to fight the Gowranger clones, and they have their signature, like, you know, tossing around a ball move, which I know is one of Gowranger's things, but it's pretty lame, to be honest. I was like, this is really stupid. But you know, it's fitting for the little tribute that they're doing there. So they fight off those. But then Stacy summons the 4 Megazords that our Rangers are based off of. So he summons Daijujin and Gao King and Magic King and Daiboken. So they have to fight them all, and they're just getting totally owned until they summon a giant version of their Changer, which is kind of like their big cannon finisher, which I think was actually kind of cool and kind of funny. But they think that they've won against them, but they haven't, because then he's like, okay, you beat those guys? Well, then I'm going to summon all these guys. And he summons an absolute ton of mecha throughout all of history, and it kind of ends on a cliffhanger there. And something that's cool, a cool little detail about that, is when they summon them, like, they come up in the box, like in the toy box. Like you'll see like Galaxy Mega's toy box, like what the box looked like when you bought it in stores, and then it goes down and you see the Megazord. That's a cool little detail, but it was a pretty big episode. It's really funny because it feels like not that long ago I was saying, okay, we've debuted everybody, now we're getting into the status quo time. It'll be interesting to see what Zenkaiger feels like when we're just kind of in the normal territory, but automatically now we're going to be getting lots of stuff. I mean, this was a huge episode as we debuted Stacy here, and then next week we're already getting Stacaesar, which, as excited as I am for that, I hate how early 6 Rangers debut now, and it's getting even earlier, and I kind of wish you had more time with just the natural status quo, but then also lends us to the idea there could be more Rangers and other stuff debuting later if we're getting this much stuff this early, so I'm looking forward to it, but it's just a bit too much too quickly. But I like the idea of Stacy, I like the idea of an evil Ranger, and I think that now that we have 3 regular Rangers in there, it makes the series feel a little more Sentai-like, and it kind of, I think, enhances the uniqueness while still making it feel more like a normal Sentai, if that makes any sense. But I hope he doesn't get redeemed. I don't need to get him redeemed. I feel like that's already gonna happen. I've already can see it in my head, so I just would rather him stay a villain, but I get a feeling he'll probably get some sort of redemption arc just going based off of what they've done in the past. But I think it'll be an interesting dynamic, and I like his powers, the way they work, like, you know, Dian's, and I think this episode, like I said, was a really good one if you like a lot of fan service stuff, because, you know, summoning all the Ranger forms, and then it was pretty cool him using, like, the ability gears they have to counter them, and then seeing all the mecha, like, in, you know, modern day crisp footage, although they showed off some of the old finishers and stuff, but that was pretty cool to see their counterparts and stuff like that. They're like, you ain't nothing but a cheap copy. And then, like I mentioned, I thought that was a cool little Easter egg detail, the way they summon them out of basically their Sentai toy boxes. I think that was neat. And again, I might have misread that thing about them implying that Zenkaiser is half human. It could just be the way I was reading it, but if so, that could be potentially something interesting. But overall, this remained a very solid episode. I think it kept me really interested. There was a lot going on. It got me excited for the future. There was some nice little character moments for Gown. I'm definitely interested to find out why exactly he hates Kikinoids, but I guess we'll find out. But I would give this episode a 4 out of 5. Honestly, Zenkaiger has some potential here. I think that if they keep this pace going, I haven't hated it yet. I've seen potential for it to be annoying, but I haven't hated it yet, and last week was fairly entertaining, and this week kind of picked it up, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens from here. But what did you guys think of Stacy? What do you guys think of the show so far? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can do some more videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.